ask you something? Do you remember who you were in January? Maybe you started this year believing things were going to be different. You had plans, goals, prayers, things you wanted to change, things you promised yourself you were finally going to do. Maybe you said, "This is the year I'm going to get serious about my health. This is the year I'm going to get closer to God. This is the year I'm going to start the business, go back to school, get out of debt, work on my marriage, be more present with my children. Stop procrastinating. Stop letting fear control me." Maybe you bought the planner, made the vision board, wrote down the goals, prayed over the year, and genuinely believed this year is going to be different. But now it's July. Half the year is gone. And maybe you're looking at your life wondering, what happened? Because some of the things you prayed for still haven't happened. Some of the habits you promised yourself you would change, you haven't changed. Some of the goals you were excited about, you stopped working on. Maybe you started strong and then life happened. The children needed you, work became overwhelming, money got tight, your health changed. Your marriage went through a difficult season. Someone you loved disappointed you. You lost someone. You became discouraged. You got tired. And slowly, the plans you made in January were replaced by simply trying to make it through the day. And now that we've reached the middle of the year, maybe you're feeling pressure because the internet is full of people telling you to work harder, wake up earlier, start over, be more disciplined, fix your life. Make the next 6 months count. And maybe part of you knows there are things you need to change, but another part of you is just tired because you don't need another person making you feel like you're behind. You already know what you didn't accomplish. You already know what you stopped doing. You already know where you procrastinated. You already know the opportunities you were too afraid to take. You already know the prayers that haven't been answered. You don't need someone standing over you shouting, "Work harder." You need wisdom. You need direction. You need to know what God is asking from you in this season. Because there's a difference between being unproductive and being in a season you didn't expect. There's a difference between procrastination and exhaustion. There's a difference between waiting on God and using "I'm waiting on God" as an excuse because you're afraid to move. And if you're going to talk about the next 6 months, we have to be honest about that. Because some of us have been too hard on ourselves, and some of us have been making excuses. Some of us need rest, and some of us need discipline. Some of us need to keep knocking on the door, and some of us need to accept that God closed it. Some of us need to be patient, and some of us have been calling fear patience. That is why this isn't going to be another message telling you to create a new vision board and become a completely different woman by December. I want us to do something deeper. I want you to look back at the first 6 months of this year with God, not with shame, not with comparison, not with condemnation, with honesty. Because before we start asking, what can I accomplish in the next 6 months? Maybe we should ask, God, what have you been trying to teach me during the last six? Maybe January through June didn't look the way you wanted, but that doesn't mean nothing happened. Maybe you learned that you're stronger than you thought. Maybe you learned that you're more tired than you were willing to admit. Maybe you learned who was really there for you. Maybe you learned that some relationships cannot survive without boundaries. Maybe you learned that you cannot keep pouring from an empty cup. Maybe you learned that you were chasing something because everyone else had it, not because God told you to pursue it. Maybe you learned that the door you were devastated about losing was not the door God intended for you to walk through. Maybe you learned that healing takes longer than you expected. Maybe you learned that you need help. Maybe you learned that you need to forgive. Maybe you learned that you need to stop going back to the same situation expecting a different outcome. Maybe you learned that your children don't need a perfect mother. They need a present one. Maybe you learned that you cannot pray for change and continue doing everything exactly the same. And maybe the first 6 months weren't wasted. Maybe they revealed something about your habits, your priorities, your relationships, your faith, your fears, your limits, your obedience. Something you needed to see before God could take you into the next season. Because we have a habit of only calling something progress when we can show it to people. When the business grows, when the weight comes off, when the degree is finished, when the house is purchased, when the relationship is restored, when the prayer is answered. But some of the most important work God does in us cannot be posted online. Nobody sees when you finally stop begging someone to treat you right. Nobody sees when you begin praying after months of feeling distant from God. Nobody sees when you choose not to respond the way the old you would have responded. Nobody sees when you get out of bed on a day when grief makes you want to stay there. Nobody sees when you admit, I need help. Nobody sees when you forgive yourself. Nobody sees when you decide to try again. But God sees it. And before you call the first half of this year a failure, I want you to ask yourself, am I only measuring what I accomplished, or am I paying attention to who I am becoming? Because those are not always the same thing. And mom, you still have time, not to panic, not to punish yourself, not time to compare your chapter to somebody else's highlight reel. You have time to listen, to pray, to evaluate, to make changes, to obey, to begin again. 6 months from now, you will arrive at the end of this year. The question is not whether you can accomplish everything you wanted. The question is, who do you want to be when you get there? And more importantly, who is God asking you to become? Because the next 6 months can look different, but not simply because the calendar changed. Things begin to change when we are willing to be honest about what needs to stay, what needs to go, what needs to heal, what needs to begin, and what we need to finally surrender to God. So today, I want us to look at the next 6 months differently. Not as a countdown, not as pressure, but as an opportunity. An opportunity to stop drifting through the year. An opportunity to stop waiting for motivation. An opportunity to stop trying to do everything at once. An opportunity to become intentional about where you're going, who you're becoming, and whether you're actually walking in the direction God has been calling you. Because you cannot change the first 6 months, but you can decide how you will walk through the next six. And that begins with one of the hardest things many of us have to do, being honest about where we are right now. Because honesty can be uncomfortable. It is much easier to say, I just haven't had enough time. Things have been busy. I'll start when life settles down. I'm waiting for the right opportunity. I'm waiting for God to show me what to do. And sometimes those things are true. Life can be busy. Seasons can be difficult. There are times when God asks us to wait. But sometimes, if we're being truthful, we already know what we need to do. We just haven't done it. We know we need to make the appointment. We know we need to have the conversation. We know we need to stop spending money we don't have. We know we need to stop going back to the person who keeps hurting us. We know we need to finish the application, start the class, ask for help, set the boundary, apologize, forgive, get serious about our health, spend time with God, turn off the phone, stop comparing, stop making excuses. Sometimes we just keep asking God for direction when He's already given us an instruction. When we're waiting for a new word because we don't like the last one. Mom, that's something I think all of us need to think about. Have you been asking God to change your life while ignoring the last thing He asked you to change? Have you been praying for a new opportunity while neglecting the opportunity already in your hands? Have you been asking God for more while being careless with what you already have? Have you been saying, God, show me what to do? And deep down, you already know. James 1:22 says, do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. That's simple, but simple does not mean easy, because sometimes we love inspiration more than obedience. We listen to sermons, watch videos, save scriptures, buy journals, make plans, write goals, talk about what we're going to do, pray about what we're going to do, and then we don't do it. We keep waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel confident, waiting to feel motivated, waiting until we're less afraid. But there are some things you will never feel completely ready to do. Sometimes courage looks like obeying God while your hands are still shaking. Sometimes faith looks like filling out the application when you're afraid they'll say no. Sometimes faith looks like starting small when you wish you had more. Sometimes faith looks like setting a boundary even though you're afraid someone will upset you. Sometimes faith looks like admitting that the plan isn't working. Sometimes faith looks like trying again. And sometimes faith looks like stopping. Because not everything you started in January needs to follow you to December. That's another thing we need to talk about. We are often focused on finishing what we started, that we never stop to ask whether God is still asking us to carry it. Some goals need discipline. Some goals need to be released. Some relationships need work, but some relationships need distance. Some doors need persistence, but some doors are closed. Some dreams need patience, but some dreams were built from comparison, pressure, or the need to prove something. And wisdom is knowing the difference. Ecclesiastes tells us that there's a season for everything, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to search and a time to give up. We don't talk about the last one very often, a time to give up. Because giving up sounds like failure. But what if you're giving up something God never asked you to keep carrying? What if the reason you're exhausted is because you're trying to drag an expired season into the next one? What if you keep asking God to breathe life into something He asks you to release? What if the next 6 months aren't about adding more goals? What if they're about removing distractions? Removing obligations that you accepted out of guilt, removing habits that keep stealing your time, removing relationships that continually pull you away from who God is calling you to become, removing the pressure to be everything to everyone, removing the belief that says no makes you selfish, removing the need to prove that you can handle everything. Because some growth looks like addition, and sometimes growth looks like subtraction. Think about a garden. A healthy garden isn't created by allowing everything to grow. Some things have to be pulled, some things have to be cut back, some things are taking nutrients from what you're actually trying to grow. And if you're a mom, you know how easy it is for your life to become crowded. Everybody needs something. The children need something. Your spouse needs something. Your job needs something. Your family needs something. Your phone is always notifying you that somebody somewhere wants your attention. And if you're not careful, you can spend an entire year responding to what everybody else needs without ever asking God what He wants from you. You can be busy every day and still be going nowhere. You can be exhausted every night and still be neglecting the things that matter most. You can be doing good things and still miss the thing that God is asking you to do. That's why one of the most important questions you can ask for the next 6 months is not, how can I do more? It's, God, what deserves my attention in this season? Because everything cannot be a priority. If everything is important, nothing is important. And I think some of us need permission to simplify. You do not need 12 goals for the next 6 months. You do not need to completely transform every area of your life before December. You don't need to become a better mom, lose the weight, fix the marriage, grow the business, finish the degree, save $10,000, read the entire Bible, organize the whole house, start waking up at 5 in the morning, and never eat another carb again. Mom, calm down. You are one person. And trying to change everything at once is one of the fastest ways to change nothing. Maybe the next 6 months needs one focus, maybe two, maybe three. What is the area of your life where God has been consistently getting your attention? Not the thing everyone else thinks you should be doing. Not the thing that looks impressive online. Not the goal that would make people clap for you. What is God putting His finger on? Your relationship with Him? Your health? Your marriage? Your finances? Your parenting? Your healing? Your discipline? Your career? Your boundaries? Your rest? Because sometimes we already know. There's an area we keep avoiding. We stay busy with everything else because we don't want to deal with that one thing. We'll clean the entire house before making the phone call. We'll help everybody else with their problems before addressing our own. We'll start 3 new projects before finishing the one that matters. We'll pray for a miracle when God is asking us to make a change. And maybe the next 6 months begin with focus, not frantic activity. Focus. Nehemiah understood that. When he heard that the walls of Jerusalem were broken down, he didn't try to fix every problem in Israel. He had an assignment: rebuild the wall. And when distractions came, because they always do, he stayed focused. People criticized him, people threatened him, people tried to call him away from the work. And Nehemiah said something I love: I am carrying on a great project and cannot go down. In other words, I know what God has asked me to do, and I cannot keep leaving my assignment to respond to every distraction. Mom, what keeps calling you down? Keeps pulling you away from the work God is doing in your life? Is it comparison? Every time you start making progress, you look at somebody else's life and suddenly yours doesn't feel good enough. Is it fear? You keep getting close to starting and then you talk yourself out of it. Is it people pleasing? You know what you need to do, but you're afraid somebody doesn't understand. Is it your phone? You say you don't have time, but somehow 2 hours disappeared while you were scrolling. Is it perfectionism? You keep planning, researching, preparing, waiting, but you never begin because you're afraid the first version won't be good enough. Is it discouragement? You tried before, it didn't work. and now you're afraid to try again. Whatever it is, you need to name it because you cannot protect your focus from a distraction you refuse to identify. The next 6 months will have distractions. There will be unexpected problems, days when you don't feel motivated, weeks when life gets busy, moments when you question whether anything is changing. You will not walk perfectly through the rest of this year. That's not the goal. The goal is to stop allowing one bad day to become a bad month, to stop allowing one mistake to convince you that you failed, to stop quitting every time progress becomes uncomfortable. You missed a week. Begin again. You overspent. Correct it. You lost your temper. Apologize. You stopped praying. Come back. You got distracted. Refocus. You made a mistake. Learn from it. You do not need another January to start again. You don't need Monday. You don't need the first of the month. You don't need a new planner. You don't need the perfect circumstances. God's mercy is new every morning. That means you can return to Him today. You can obey today. You can make one different choice today. And then tomorrow, you can do it again. Because 6 months of small, faithful decisions can change more than one week of extreme motivation. And that's what I want to talk about next. How do you actually walk through the next 6 months differently? How do you stay consistent when motivation disappears? How do you make progress without becoming obsessed with productivity? How do you build a life that is intentional? Still leaves room for God to interrupt your plans. Because making the next 6 months count is not about doing everything. It's about learning to faithfully do what matters. And that sounds simple, but if it were easy, most of us wouldn't start every January with the same goals we had the year before. Because knowing what matters and consistently making room for it are two different things. You can know you need to spend more time with God and still reach for your phone first every morning. You can know you need to take care of your health and still keep putting off the appointment. You know you need to save money and still spend when you're stressed. You know when you need boundaries and still say yes because you don't want anyone to be upset with you. You can know you need rest and still feel guilty every time you sit down. So for the next 6 months, I don't want you to build your life around motivation. Motivation is wonderful when it shows up, but motivation is unreliable. Some mornings, you're going to wake up ready. You'll pray, you'll exercise, you'll make the breakfast, you'll answer the emails, you'll check things off your list, and you'll think, look at me getting my life together. And then there will be other days. The kids will begin arguing before your feet touch the floor. You'll oversleep. Something unexpected will happen. You'll get disappointing news. You'll be tired. You'll be frustrated. You'll have no desire to do things you promised yourself you would do. Those are the days that matter too. Because since consistency isn't doing everything perfectly. Consistency is learning how to keep returning to God, returning to your priorities, returning to the habits that support the life you're trying to build. Returning after you get distracted. Returning after you make a mistake. Returning after life interrupts the plan. A consistent woman is not a woman who never falls off track. She's a woman who stops turning every detour into a permanent destination. So here's what I want you to do. Choose what matters most for the next 6 months. Not 10 things, 1 to 3 areas. And be honest. If your relationship with God has become an afterthought, start there. Maybe your goal isn't reading the entire Bible by December. Maybe it's giving God the first 15 minutes of your morning, before the notifications, before the email, before you begin carrying everybody else's needs. 15 quiet minutes. Scripture, prayer, stillness, consistency. If your health needs attention, start there. Not with punishing yourself, not with trying to change your entire body in 30 days. Make the appointment, take the walk, drink more water, take your medication as prescribed. Go to sleep earlier. Ask for help. Make one decision you can repeat. If your finances need attention, start there. Look at the numbers, even if you're afraid to. Create the budget. Cancel what you don't see. Stop pretending small purchases don't add up. Ask for guidance if you need it. Make a plan. Then work the plan. If your marriage needs attention, start there. Pray. Communicate honestly. Listen. Take responsibility for what belongs to you. Get wise counsel when you need it. Stop avoiding conversations that need to happen. And also remember, you cannot do the work of two people. Faithfulness does not require you to control another person's choices. If your dream has been sitting untouched because you're afraid, start there. Give it 30 minutes. Write the first page. Record the first video. Research the first step. Send the email. Make the call. Begin badly if you had to. But begin. because some of us are praying for God to bless something we refuse to start. And some of us are asking God for progress while giving our best time and attention to distractions. You don't need more time. You need to become more honest about where your time is going. And I say that with love because I need that reminder too. How many times have we said, I don't have time to pray, but we have time to scroll? I don't have time to work on the goal, but we have time to watch 3 episodes. I don't have time to rest, but we spent an hour doing something we didn't even want to do because we were afraid to say no. Sometimes the problem isn't the amount of time we have, it's that we haven't decided what deserves it. Psalm 90:12 says, teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. That verse isn't telling us to panic because time is passing. It's reminding us to live awake, to recognize that our days matter. This ordinary Tuesday matters. The 30 minutes you keep wasting because it doesn't feel significant, it matters. The conversation with your child, it matters. The quiet prayer nobody hears, it matters. The small decision to try again, it matters. The boundary you finally keep, it matters. The money you choose not to spend, it matters. The application you submit, it matters. The night you go to bed instead of staying awake worrying, it matters. A life is built in ordinary days, and if you keep waiting for one dramatic moment to change everything, you may overlook the small decisions God is asking you to make right now. So stop asking yourself, how can I completely change my life before December? Ask, what can I faithfully repeat? Because what you repeat will shape you. The prayers you repeat, the habits you repeat, the thoughts you repeat, the excuses you repeat, the boundaries you keep breaking, the people you keep returning to, the things you keep postponing, the way you spend your mornings, the way you speak to yourself when you fail. Your life is being shaped every day. The question is, in what direction? And here's something else I want you to remember. Leave room for God to change the plan. You can make goals, you should plan. You should be intentional, but do not become so committed to your December vision that you stop listening to God in July. Maybe God will redirect you. Maybe the opportunity will look different than you expected. Maybe a door will close. Maybe you'll need to rest. Maybe your family will need more of you for a season. Maybe God will ask you to release something you thought would be a part of your future. Maybe He'll ask you to begin something you never planned. Your plan is a tool. It is not your God. Proverbs 16:9 says, in their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. So plan and pray, work and listen, move forward and remain teachable. Be disciplined, but don't become so rigid that you cannot recognize when God is redirecting you. The goal for the next 6 months is not to control your life. It is to become more intentional about walking with God through it. And when December comes, maybe everything on your list won't be finished. Maybe every prayer won't be answered. Maybe every problem won't be solved. But I hope you're closer to God. I hope you're more honest, more disciplined, more peaceful, more willing to obey, more willing to rest, more willing to say no, more willing to begin again. I hope you've stopped measuring your worth by your productivity. I hope you've stopped comparing your timeline to people you don't even know. I hope you've learned that one difficult season does not mean your whole year was wasted. I hope you look back and realize I didn't do everything, but I stopped drifting. I didn't reach every goal, but I became more intentional. I still had difficult days, but I learned how to return to God. I made mistakes, but I stopped allowing my mistakes to define the rest of my story. Mom, half the year is gone, but you are still here. You can still pray, you can still heal, you can still learn, you can still change, you can still apologize, you can still forgive, you can still set the boundary, you can still start, you can still stop, you can still ask for help, you can still obey God, you can still become more intentional about the life you're living. Do not spend the next 6 months mourning the first six. Learn from them. Thank God for the ways He carried you. Be honest about where you need to change. And take the next faithful step. And tomorrow, take another one. Before we finish today, I want to pray for you. I want to pray for the mom who feels behind, the mom who is disappointed in herself, the mom who has been through more during the first half of this year than anyone knows, the mom who is ready to begin again, but is afraid she'll fail again. The mom who doesn't need more pressure. She needs direction, grace, discipline, courage, and the presence of God. So wherever you are, let's pray. Father, we come to you today with grateful hearts, not because everything has gone the way we planned, not because every prayer has been answered, not because every goal has been reached, but because through every month of this year, you have been faithful. You were there in January when we were hopeful. You were there when the plans changed. You were there when we became discouraged. You were there when we got tired. You were there when we made mistakes. You were there when we stopped praying the way we used to. You were there when we wanted to give up. You were there when we cried in places where nobody could see us. And Lord, you are still here. Father, I pray for every mom listening today. The mom who reached the middle of this year and feels disappointed. The mom who thought she would be further along by now. The mom who's looking at the goals she didn't accomplish. The prayers that haven't been answered. The changes she promised herself she would make and wondering if she wasted too much time. Remind her that her story is not over. Remind her that she does not need to wait for another January to begin again. Remind her that your mercy is new every morning, and that means she can return to you today. Father, help us look honestly at the first 6 months of this year. Show us where we have grown. Show us the progress we overlooked because it wasn't visible to everyone else. Show us the prayers you answered differently than we expected. Show us the doors you closed for our protection. Show us the people you removed, the habits you've been revealing, the places where we have healed, the ways we have become stronger. Help us recognize that not every difficult season was wasted. But Lord, also show us where we need to change. Show us where we have been making excuses, where we have been procrastinating, where we have been waiting for motivation instead of practicing discipline, where we have been asking you for direction while ignoring the instruction you already gave us, where we have been holding on to relationships, habits, goals, and situations you are asking us to release. Give us the courage to be honest, not so we can condemn ourselves, but so we can grow. Father, give us wisdom for the next 6 months. We don't want to spend the rest of this year running in every direction. We don't want to be busy without being purposeful. We don't want to accomplish things that impress people while neglecting the things you told us matter. Teach us what deserves our attention in this season. If we need to slow down, give us permission to slow down. If we need to move, give us courage to move. If we need to speak, give us the words. If we need to be silent, give us restraint. If we need to stay, give us endurance. If we need to leave, give us courage. If we need to ask for help, remove the pride that keeps us pretending we can do everything alone. Father, help us choose our priorities wisely. Help us protect our time. Help us stop giving our best energy to things that do not matter. Help us to recognize distractions before they steal another 6 months. Give us discipline when motivation disappears. Teach us to return when we get off track. When we miss a day, help us begin again. When we make a mistake, help us learn and continue. When we become discouraged, remind us why we started. When comparison makes us feel behind, turn our eyes back towards you. When fear tells us we're not ready, help us to take the next faithful step anyway. Father, I pray for the mom who has been through more this year than anyone knows. Mom who wasn't working toward goals because she was trying to survive. The mom who experienced loss. The mom whose health changed. The mom whose marriage is struggling. The mom who is worried about her child. The mom whose finances are keeping her awake. The mom who is searching for work. The mom who is working and still struggling to make ends meet. The mom who has been taking care of everyone else while quietly falling apart. Lord, meet her where she is. Don't let her confuse a difficult season with a wasted season. Give her rest without guilt. Give her help without shame. Give her wisdom for the decisions in front of her. Give her people who will pray with her, encourage her, and remind her that she does not have to walk through everything alone. Father, I pray for the mom who needs to start. She's been thinking about it, planning it, talking about it, praying about it, but fear keeps stopping her. Give her courage to begin. Not perfectly, not with everything figured out, just faithfully. Help her write the first page, submit the application, make the appointment, start the class, record the video, have the conversation, create the budget, take the walk, ask for help, do the next thing you have placed in front of her. And Father, I pray for the mom who needs to stop. Stop chasing someone who continues to hurt her. Stop forcing a door you have closed. Stop carrying responsibilities that do not belong to her. Stop saying yes because she's afraid of disappointing people. Stop comparing her life to strangers online. Stop punishing herself for mistakes you have already forgiven. Stop believing that rest makes her lazy. Stop believing that her worth is determined by how much she accomplishes. Give her the courage to release what no longer belongs in this season. Lord, teach us to number our days, not so we become afraid of time passing, but so we become intentional about the life you have given us. Help us be present with our children. Help us love our families well. Help us take care of the bodies you've given us. Help us steward our finances wisely. Help us work with integrity. Help us rest when we need rest. Help us pray before we panic. Help us listen before we move. Help us obey even when obedience is uncomfortable. And Lord, leave room in our plans for you. Redirect us when we're going the wrong way. Close doors that would pull us away from you. Open doors that align with your will. Remove distractions we keep mistaking for opportunities. Give us discernment to know the difference. We make our plans, but we trust you to establish our steps. And when December comes, whether we accomplished every goal or not, let us be able to say, I walked closer with God. I became more honest. I became more disciplined. I learned how to rest. I learned how to begin again. I stopped allowing fear to make every decision. I stopped living for everyone else's approval. I became more intentional about the life God gave me. Father, we give you the rest of this year, our plans, our families, our marriages, our children, our careers, our businesses, our education, our finances, our health, our healing, our unanswered prayers, our hopes, our disappointments, our timelines. We place them in your hands. Teach us to faithfully do what belongs to us and trust you with what belongs to you. Thank you for carrying us through the first half of this year. Thank you that we are still here, still growing, still learning, still praying, still becoming. And thank you that we do not have to wait for a new year to receive new mercy. We can begin again today. In Jesus' name, amen. Mom, before you go, I want you to do one thing. Don't make a list of 20 goals. Don't promise yourself you're going to change your entire life by December. Choose one thing, one area where you know God has been asking for your attention. Write it down, pray over it, and take one faithful step. Then come back tomorrow and take another.